Welcome to another episode of the State of the Bulldogs. It is just Grant and I tonight.
Again?
Grant, how are you?
Doing well. How's it going in Atlanta?
Atlanta's good. Not quite sweater weather, but we're getting there. Crazy weekend of football around the SoCon and around the nation. Grant, before we dive into ETSU, the first question of the day is Kalen DeBoer on the hot seat, going from the highest of highs of beating Georgia to frankly the lowest of lows, a loss to Vanderbilt, first Vandy AP top 5 win in school history, and they took the goalpost to Broadway. So not a great second game in Kalen's brief SEC tenure.
Yeah, the best stat was coming into yesterday. Vandy was 0-60 against AP top 5 teams all time. Now they're 1-60. So let's go, Diego Pavia. Yeah, well done. Short answer, no, but it was pretty funny. Someone posted a meme of him, like, Kalen DeBoer looking into a mirror, and it's Brian Harsin, like, in the mirror of them, like, side by side. I was like, that's so good.
That's savage.
That's pretty good. But no, it's still pretty sweet seeing that one with Diego Pavia, everyone's favorite new quarterback, right?
Hey, look, we love him. And, you know, for all the crap we've given Vandy and the hocus pocus Clark Lee was throwing out there how we're building a program built like Bama. You know, they, for the first time in his coaching career at Vanderbilt, they proved it.
Extend the man.
Sign him. Just the media value alone of that win justifies an extension. But boy, Roll Tide Nation is feeling a little more uneasy after that big win over Georgia.
Yeah, Alabama lost to Vandy. We talked about it in the post-game show, but UAB lost by 50 due to Lane coming in, and Trent Dilfer at the game. Don't be mad at the players, be mad at me. It's like, I think they've been pretty mad at you all week. No one's blaming the players for losing by 50 and then what he said throughout the week. But yeah, FBS, like number 1, I need to go back and look, but number 1, 4, 5, 9, 10, 11, all lost.
Yeah, it was insane. For a week that had no quote-unquote marquee matchups, which we all know that's the time where the upsets happen. Oh, fantastic week. And yeah, dude, UAB. I mean, look, we can say this because Samford won this week and we're chilling right now with the dub. But UAB is a very, like a place where you can win games. They didn't disband the program because it wasn't winning games. So Dilfer's on an uphill climb. I think he's finding, Grant, that winning at the FBS level is a little bit more difficult than the watered-down private school league in Tennessee, where they weren't even competing in the highest level of that realm. So
yeah, and you go from high school to basically just outside P4 football, right? The Americans kind of like that next conference right there. You lost to Navy at home last week, where you gave up like over 200 yards passing to Navy, which is pretty wild. Yeah, Navy. Good. And speaking of Navy, shout out the service academies. They go to Army next week, UAB does, and then they go to South Florida. So it's not getting any better for the Blazers and Code. 15 minutes to downtown Birmingham. So
yeah. Well, enough, Grant, about the lesser programs in the state. Let's focus on one of the problems we highlighted again this week, and that is the football broadcast production quality. Obviously, if you tuned into the game on Saturday, the same problems we had the first week, which was just an overall lack of quality, coupled with just a very embarrassing first 5 minutes. Grant, I had my grandmother in Cleburne, Texas, text me. It's like, hey, Sam, I'm watching the Samford game. Is it usually this bad? I can't even hear the broadcaster. And I'm just sitting there. I'm like, this is why it's a problem. You know, as a fan who's going to watch every game I'm going to watch every game regardless if I can hear anything.
Yeah.
But to someone who's getting their first taste of the brand of Samford, it's a terrible look. And Grant, the most annoying thing about this whole to-do was the fact that students were thrown under the bus. Grant, if I was putting together a report that people were going to read and I blamed the intern, I would be fired. I would straight up be fired if I blamed the dadgum interns. But here we are. We have professionals blaming students. Not a good look for the university. On top of the fact that nothing has improved Grant, we're not asking for college game day level production. Give us a replay. Give us some crowd noise. Give us something to make it feel like we're at the game. The fact that we took 5 steps back and could hear the phone ringing, the background of the broadcast booth, people talking, it was the most Bush League production I'd ever heard. And I've tuned into some 100% student-led productions on the high school level, and they put that to shame. And the cameraman, Michael and I were both texting about that in the group chat.
Mm-hmm.
And us queasy. So it's everything, audio, camera. Please get it together because it is embarrassing. And look, if we don't win another game for the rest of the year, we at least need to be able to watch it in peace. Because it ain't guaranteed that we're going to win a game for the rest of the year. VMI was our last gimme, especially considering this Furman Citadel result that we'll get to. Citadel looking less and less like a pushover as the season goes on. But
that's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, the improvement needs to be made because my grandmother in Cleburne, Texas, who's tuning into a Samford game for the first time, does not need to be texting me about how Bush League our production is. And if we're blaming students, heads need to roll. And I'm never an advocate for firing people, but if you blame other people for your work product, yeah, I'm out.
Props to your grandma for turning on ESPN Plus, Cleburne, Texas. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna fire up Samford VMI this weekend. Let's do it.
She loves football.
There you go.
Football. All right, so
but
go ahead, Grant.
But yeah, it's not good. Straight up, short answer, not good. So
no. And it really, again, it irked me that we're blaming students because it's literally like if I blame the intern for my poor work product. That is not, it's not professional. It's not good. And something needs to improve. We'll see what happens. I didn't know that Tyler Bain had left. He had left. He's at UVA. Now. We were just talking with him at the press box in Gainesville, and he said his last game was after Alabama State. And you can take this for what it means. He didn't give us any details, and I haven't determined if I'm going to push for any more. Probably will. Might as well ask. But he says it's even worse than you can imagine behind the scenes. So we'll see. The McAfoo's hole is a little bit bigger than we all had hoped. Please, John, if you hear this, please come back. Please come back. Because that's
he's in your old stomping grounds. He's not leaving.
That's right.
He's not leaving Houston.
Houston's amazing. U of H is a great place. Great athletic programs down there. But that's the real thing, Grant. This is the same production team we're going to be carrying into baseball and basketball.
Yeah. And
if we screw up the momentum of buckyball, when I don't know how many people watch our football games, I'm going to imagine probably a couple thousand. Not an insane amount, but considering the reach on ESPN Plus, I would imagine a couple thousand people tune in. It could be a lot more than that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't ballpark it. Yeah,
but I imagine 10 times that will tune in for the basketball games, even if it's just bettors, right? And Samford, for better or for worse, has embarked on this path of improving the brand. It kind of started when I was there, when they flipped the logo and all the marketing stuff, and they paid $2 million for the Mack Truck Bulldog. But they've been on this path of making sure the brand is first and foremost and looks good and projects the values and quality that is a Samford education. And the fact that this is the product we have on the broadcast team is just a terrible reflection of all of that and undoes so much work. It undoes so much work because image is very fragile. And if your team isn't just obliterating people on the field or on the court, it's all the other soft factors that go into helping reshape the brand, and just not good. It's not good, Grant.
It's just not good. Yeah, capital P product, as what they say in like golf, like what they're putting out there needs. I was saying, I'm sure they know that, but it's the fact of, yes, you do know it, but how?
I hope they know it. Shoot.
But how do we improve upon that in a couple of weeks when Samford's back home? So,
look, the audio stuff was flabbergasting. Like, you got to think that someone did a dry run. I pray that they didn't, because if they did, that's even more embarrassing. There aren't that many variables that can make it go that wrong. I get if audio is just cut entirely. Okay. We got a snap in the wire somewhere. Something's not connected. Wi-Fi
Aaron.
goes out.
Yeah, Wi-Fi. Yeah.
But the fact that we could hear everything going on in the booth, oh my goodness. And it sounded like your brother was underwater and his partner was like 100 miles away whispering in the corner. It was absurd.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're about 10 minutes into this bad boy. We haven't even mentioned the ETSU. So let's just jump in on the Buccaneers. Honestly, Grant, I'm feeling a lot better. So going into the double bye, our expectations ebbed and flowed about this team. We weren't sure what to make of it. We all played the imaginary Furman game in our mind. And before the Furman Citadel match, where Furman won 17-16, we all thought Furman was going to blow us out. Post that game and post our VMI game, I think, you know what? Furman might actually be as bad as some people think they are, and we could have a pretty competitive game against them. At the same time, we had ETSU riding high through the first part of the season with close games against number 2 North Dakota State, a nice win against Elon. And we were watching this UTC game this past week, which they had lost 10-17, as kind of a barometer of both UTC and ETSU. And I'm feeling a lot better about Samford's overall chances after just what we've seen in the SoCon, because it looks like it's a pretty down year overall for the conference. Believe me, we are not a defensive juggernaut conference, and these are some low scores.
Yeah.
So with that said, Grant, let's just kind of ease into ETSU. I said they just lost to UTC 10-17, but the two games prior to that, they beat the Citadel 34-17 and then Elon 34-14. Just some quick offensive stats. They average 412 yards a game, which is pretty respectable, most of which is on the ground. 231 yards on the ground. They kind of have a three-headed rushing attack led by the quarterback Jalen King and then two running backs, Bryson Irby and Devontae Houston. An interesting stat here, Grant, is it looks like if they get behind the sticks, they don't really convert because they're only converting about 30% of the third downs. So keeping them off schedule, as we hear all the time on broadcasts across America, is a nice key. Defensively, they allow 338 yards a game, 119 on the ground, 219 in the air. I mean, nothing spectacular. It's pretty run-of-the-mill average defense. But they have three really good defenders and then a guy that's kind of a wild card. Two linebackers, William McRaney and Ray Coney. Not sure how to say his name. They are kind of the leaders. William has 39 tackles, which leads the team. 4 tackles for loss, a sack. Ray has 38 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss. And then Chris Hope, DB, has 38 tackles. So those three guys are the leaders on the defense. And then Nick Hunter, big play Nick, had 2 sacks against Citadel and an interception against UTC. So while the defense gives up a fairly, normal amount, they aren't stalwarts or juggernauts by any stretch of the word. They do have playmakers, and they have an identity. And anytime a team has an identity and know who their guys are, there's potential there for them to get enough stops to win this game. But with that said, Grant, thoughts on ETSU?
I think you got to go to that running back room. Bryson Irby, 6-foot senior out of Douglasville, Georgia. He's had a couple of big games this year already. He ran for $147 and 3 TDs against North Dakota State in that one, which they had that game almost down to the wire for NDSU pulled it out after an onside kick. A couple weeks ago against the Citadel, Irby ran for 126 as well, with also a tud as well. So you go to that rushing attack with Irby, and then you throw in a quarterback, Jalen King, 51% completion, 4 Ts, 5 picks. It looks like he got replaced last week, not by injury, but just they put in the backup quarterback last week just to give themselves a little bit of a spark. So it'll be interesting to see whether if that was just a matchup situation or will King, who was a Gardner-Webb transfer, one of the many Gardner-Webb transfers that came over with head coach Trey Lamb this offseason. So it'll just be a matter of is it going to be King at quarterback, and how does Samford react in preparing for those two guys, especially knowing that they'll be more comfortable with King, who's kind of a little bit of what they've seen previously in the last few weeks. Not that great of a thrower, but still can make plays down the field and also is a dynamic with his legs. So that'll be interesting to see how they attack the run game for ETSU and who is at quarterback for the Bucs on Saturday.
Yeah, similar style, Grant, to Alabama State, funny enough. They really do not pose much of a threat passing. I mean, King has 4 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. But they have a few playmakers at wideout, but they really want to run the ball. One interesting tidbit, Grant, is their average time of possession is only 28 minutes, which, for the math nerds at home, there's 60 minutes in a game. So as a running team, they don't control most of the clock, which surprised me. I was thinking when I was going to see that stat, it'd be 35, 36, 37. So I don't know if that means they have a volatile offense where they're kind of like ours, where it's 3 plays and they punt, or if they just have a very explosive rushing attack where they're just scoring quickly. I don't think it's the latter. They don't score that many points. At the same time, when you are predicated on the run, maybe that's masked a little bit, and so it does tick up the relation or the ratio between points scored and time of possession for your quote unquote explosiveness. I don't know. That was just an interesting thing. 28 minutes average time of possession. So it's just weird for a rushing attack.
Yeah, going back to that run game, Irby's got 515 yards on the year with 5 tutties. Devontae Houston, the backup back, has over 250 yards as well. And then you throw in King, the quarterback, like I said, dynamic with his legs, 240 on the ground, 3 TDs, 4.1 yards a carry. And you mentioned Irby's clip, a pretty impressive clip at 7.3 yards a carry is pretty wild.
No joke. Yeah.
It's pretty wild. That has to be tops in the conference, right? Or maybe one in like the tops in like the entire country. I'm sure we can look it up. But averaging 7 yards a carry is pretty insane.
It is. And like I had said when we first started talking about ETSU, they were the wild card coming into the season. And as they progressed through the first few games, we were a little scared of them. With this kind of identity, though, of a run-first based attack with a subpar passing attack, I do think it sets up well for how we've been playing lately. While they are more talented than Alabama State, they're going to attack us in the same ways, and we really buckled down in that game. And if Alabama State was going to win, it had to be on the ground, and our rush defense played well. Same thing against VMI. VMI has an even worse passing, poses even less of a threat passing than ETSU does. But again, ETSU doesn't pose enough of a passing threat for the defense really to be too concerned about it. And we're going to be able to load the box. And we've been shuffling D linemen in and out. That was a key or a strength that we had identified, and we looked like fools for the first couple of games. But against lesser competition, it has rung true. We have depth on the D line that is playing well. And in a game like this, it's on the road. I think the defense is going to play well enough to give us a chance. I think it gets back, if you listen to the post game with Tay on VMI, it gets back to whether our offense can execute more consistently. Because we have capabilities of explosive plays. We have capabilities of 8-play, 60-yard, 5-minute drives. Yeah. But we still, even against the terrible defense of VMI, had several 3-and-outs.
Yeah. And
ETSU's defense is a whole lot better.
Yeah, and I wish there was a way to go back and see how many like average air yards per attempt Samford had, because they're going to do the usual bubble screens, quick passes, things like that. And Hatcher said post game after VMI that the guys missed on the outside, which led to some bigger plays, and getting that extra yards on first down obviously sets you up nicely for 2nd and 3, whether you can run Quincy, get the quick first down, or take a shot, and you still got 3rd and 3. So I think it's a matter of how Samford can move the ball on offense. And again, it goes back to those kicking woes, right? Once you get down inside the low red, do you trust your kicker to make a 40-yarder, or do you have to go for it on 4th and 2 or 4th and 3 at the 30 or whatever? So that will be interesting to see how Samford does react going on the road in their second FCS road game. And also going back to the Samford defense, we don't know, the secondary still hasn't been tested as much on the FCS level on the FCS level, at least. You do know Lagway threw for however many yards or whatever, but still, they haven't been tested against SoCon wide receivers. So that will be another interesting thing to watch for sure.
Yeah, ETSU doesn't have a Mizell running down the field at a 3.540. We averaged about 7 yards per attempt against VMI.
Okay.
So I think that's a pretty good. It would be not. We had mentioned in that post game that a few of the 3-and-outs, we had completed the short pass, the 2-3-yard pass. If we're going to beat ETSU and try to limit those three and outs where the recipe has been 2 completions and a 2-yard rush, and we punt on 4th and 2, that average might need to tick up a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe take a few more shots down the field.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
They're susceptible to it. I mean, they do allow over 200 yards through the air. The problem is they have a pretty good secondary. So we mentioned Chris Hope as their DB. They have a guy, blanking on his name. He has 2 picks so far this year. They've done a decent job of capitalizing on mistakes in the passing attack, but it's still not super scary. And I think our receiving core really is coming into their own.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that Jenkins was the number 3 or 4 receiver this past week with only 2 catches is great because it just built even more in-game chemistry with Mason and Rios, which is you really need 3 guys, and then Cousins just always there, ready to do whatever is asked. So that should be advantage Samford. We will see.
Yeah.
I am a little nervous that Quincy, this is a defense that will, like I said, will capitalize on the mistake. If Quincy makes a bad throw, it will be intercepted. And they also have a propensity. They don't have a ton of sacks on the season, but it seems like as when we got into conference play, ETSU's defense played even better.
Yep.
So, or at least made bigger plays. So protecting Quincy is going to be key. We'll see. We'll get to our score predictions in just a minute, but I'm feeling much better about this game than I was coming into it. If Jalen King can throw us a bone, maybe give us a pick, just like Hammond did this past week, we would really appreciate it. We would really appreciate it, Jalen.
Yeah, going back to Samford offense, Samford does have playmakers on the outside, right? You don't have to throw a dink and dunk your way down the field. You do have Brandon Jenkins, who's a super athletic receiver, can go one-on-one with the DB down the side, as you saw against Florida, where they had that big pass play to kind of set them up before the offense sputtered around midfield. So you do have those guys on the outside that you can lean to. I would like to see Samford kind of take a couple more of those shots. They did against Alabama State. Ian Cousin had a couple had one great catch over the shoulder, like 40 yards down the field. So I think Samford does have the ability to extend the field passing. It's just a matter of will they do it. But especially on the road, you kind of do have to take some of those shots for some big play opportunities, some momentum killers if ETSU does go on a run and forces you on a couple 3-and-outs before you go back out there on another drive.
It is a balance, and it's tough because Hatcher's looking at – you go look at the stats, right? Witherspoon's averaging over 5 yards a carry. I don't even think we mentioned him in the post game. But Micah Kelly had a fantastic game, averaged 6 yards a carry. The problem, though, if you're Hatcher, is with those explosive plays come with so many 1 yard, 2 yard gains. And it seems like we're just getting unlucky with getting 0 push when we need to, and then coupled with 0 yards after the catch when we need to. And that's when we see those 3-and-outs, which are just been so common this year. And I guess it's unlucky. I don't know enough about the Hatch attack to tell you it's play calling. I doubt it. It's usually, in fact, play calling is rarely the problem. It's usually always execution because it's football. You have 11 guys who all have to do one or two things on a play, and the odds of 11 people doing their job well is so low. So that I want to just chalk it up to bad luck at the moment. We'll see. Once we get a few more conference games in, we can kind of figure out if this team is capable of more effective offense, more efficient offense. The jury is still out. VMI does not really count, and VMI kind of just showed us what we've seen to this point, where they can be consistent, but 3-and-outs, man.
And to Samford too, keep that kind of pace up. We talked about it a couple weeks ago. They're playing kind of slower than normal. They kind of picked up pace a little bit, like Tay mentioned on the post game show with VMI. So does that continue too? That's something on the road. It's also another way to kill momentum, right? Keep pushing the ball down the field. Keep going fast, like we saw. Tennessee does have the capability. They couldn't because Arkansas's defense played awesome on Saturday, but still kind of that effect of just momentum killers for ETSU going down the field and playing faster. And obviously there's that caveat too. You got to be successful, right? You can't, like, the defense can't be on the field for 8 minutes like we see with our FBS team. Then the offense goes out there and it's 3 plays and you're done. The defense is back out there. So there is that caveat too. You got to weigh that too. So it'll be interesting to see how Samford attacks ETSU.
Especially with this kind of offense where they're going to be just running it down our throats.
No.
We cannot be out there for what ETSU averages. We cannot be out there for 28 minutes. I think this is one of those times where we might see something similar where we're going to hurry when we can, to really slow it down, especially if we're getting good push on the line. I think that is going to dictate. If we get early success in the run game and we don't have to run up there, then I doubt we'll see much tempo, because if we could have it where we're running the ball well, taking our time, controlling the ball, still dinking and dunking, taking a couple shots, normal hatch attack stuff, we may not see the hurry up. Now, if we're not able to get movement, if we're not able to move the ball, we will immediately see hurry up, because it is always better to increase your odds of scoring than to kill more time on the clock. So that'll be an interesting thing to watch, because ETSU is going to be watching a lot of what the defenses have been successful at, and they have the playmakers to do it. I mean, their two linebackers, William McRaney and Ray Cooney, beasts. So we'll see. The defense is predicated on them, and so far they've been up to the task.
Yeah, you just have to go back to that North Dakota State game where they kind of bowed up and had a big lead on ETSU before they came back and won, right? So it's just a matter of
number 2 team in the country.
Exactly. Yeah, somehow getting to Johnson City, right? Like just a matter of I don't even know how that game got scheduled, right? How ETSU was like, yeah, we'll come down to Johnson City. Who cares? Rather than going up there like Samford had to experience in the playoffs a couple years ago. So one more thing on Bryson Irby. I mentioned he's running at 7.3 yards a carry. That's good for 10th in the entire country. So
pretty impressive. Impressive. Should be a good game. I'm curious, Grant, what's your score prediction?
I don't know. That's a good question. I know you're going to ask me this, and I still don't prep for it. That's a great question. Yeah, I just outed myself. Score prediction. Let's say Samford 24, ETSU 20. Okay. 24-20.
That's reasonable. I think ETSU wins the game. It's at home. They're coming off a loss. I think it's opposite. I bet it's 24-17 ETSU, 21-17 ETSU. ETSU does not have a good kicker. We don't have a good kicker. In fact, ETSU's kicker has not made a single kick over 40 yards. So I'm throwing the field goal in there more because of red zone failures than the 40, 50-yard bomb. So I'm going to go 21. I'm going to finish with 21-17 Bucs.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Just it's on the road. It's on the road, and I don't know. I don't have enough faith in this Samford offense yet.
You just haven't seen it yet. Yeah, that's fair.
Quincy has great stats. Like every other Samford quarterback in the history of the world has had great stats. But the wins have been close until this past week, and the losses have been heavy. So, or not close. So we'll see. Right now, ETSU win.
He does have one of the better defenses than what those quarterbacks had beforehand, too. So that is something that obviously plays in his favor, too.
Yep. All right, a little trivia, Grant. So it's just you. I did this knowing Jeb was not going to be on here. And that should be a nice little clue. But
yeah,
Coach Carl Torbush led the reborn ETSU football program in 2015. So like Samford, like Mercer, they had disbanded their football program and brought it back in the 2000s. A graduate of Carson Newman. He actually walked on to Tennessee, which is cool, but didn't play. A graduate of Carson Newman and former coach programs such as Alabama, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, a lot of schools. He was an original member of Mack Brown's staff at what school? And he would then later become the head coach of that school from 97 to 2000. So what school was he on staff with at Mack Brown?
So he replaced Mack after Mack went to Texas. Interesting.
Not necessarily. There was a gap. Yeah, there was.
Okay.
But in that time frame, Mack was at Texas when he was coach of this program.
Okay, yeah. That program is North Carolina Tar Heels.
Ding, 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 ding.
North Carolina, yeah. That's 3 weeks in a row. Look at that.
Look, you should just apply for Jeopardy at this rate, Grant.
I should at this point.
But I threw that.
Sorry, who is Sorry, what is North Carolina? There you go.
I hope newly
who,
married Jeb enjoys that one.
There you go.
All right, but let's get to the state of the SoCon. A lot happened this past week. Like we said, Furman and Citadel was an actual game. Furman might be trash. We will never find out because that game will never be played. But Furman beat Citadel 17-16. Western Carolina and a nail biter with Wofford won 21-17.
Does anybody want to score points in this conference? Good Lord.
No, they do not.
My goodness.
We were the conference leader with 27, Grant.
Cole Gonzalez 29-39 for 257 and 2 picks. Jeez.
Yeah.
And still found a way to win though.
That's the Cole Gonzalez I expected after watching that Arkansas game last year, and he made me look like a complete fool. UTC beat ETSU, as we mentioned, 17-10. So a wild weekend. Obviously, Mercer was off, but just a lot to digest there, especially considering you have Samford going on the road to ETSU this week, VMI traveling to Wofford, which should be a Wofford win. We were high on Wofford coming into this week, a little bit less high. We didn't know anything about Western. UTC travels to Furman, a game that Furman's actually going to play. Citadel travels to Western. I'm a little shocked that Western is playing games. They were more severely impacted than Furman. And then Princeton traveling to Mercer.
Yeah.
Should be a Mercer dub. Ivies are always wild cards. Smart kids do play football too, but rarely that well. And
shout out Cal. Yeah.
Shout out Cal. That's right. Who, for the second week in a row, Miami bailed out by the refs, but that's an ACC conspiracy we will not get into.
Yeah. Grant,
wild happenings in the SoCon. We thought there might be some parity this year, but gee whiz, this is getting spicy. Do you have are you still favoring Mercer?
I think it's still Mercer, right? Obviously undefeated, that's the easy pick, but still, just like seeing their stats and seeing them play, it's clear that they have the defense. They had a lot of guys come back from last year. The defense, they held Wofford to 3 points a couple weeks ago. They have the defense, just a matter of the offense can keep up. But if the defense is that good, then the offense just had to be serviceable to find a way to win. But going back to this past week, even weirder, Western Carolina and Wofford played in front of no fans, no spectators, back to the COVID days because of the effects of Hurricane Helene. So they still played the game, but still was in front of no spectators, which I'm sure was pretty weird to be in that stadium for those if you're on the sideline or working in the press box.
I mean, I feel so bad for Western. They're used to having 30,000 people in the stands, right, Grant? Right? They overhyped that environment so much. I mean, yeah, just because you got a bunch of drunk rednecks hurling like curse words doesn't make it an intense environment. But hey,
I was going to say they
have their little thing.
Yeah, I was going to say they could wait for basketball season, but the best team in school history was last year, and they won in barbecue in the tournament. So. Then their coach left for Coastal Carolina. So
R.I.P. Catamount Nation. Hate to see it.
It's unfortunate, really.
It's so sad.
When you think about it.
I think UTC. I've been surprised at how poorly Artopius has been playing. Not that he's been playing terribly, but he's not playing to the level that you would think he could with this kind of team. I still believe in UTC to win the conference. Mercer the defense. We knew the defense was going to be good. We said that was one of the few things we got right in the preview episode for the conference is we knew Mercer's defense was going to be good. And you always have a shot, but you just got to think. It's not like I'm just not a believer in. I am a believer in defense. It's so conflicting. I'm just so biased. I don't want to see Mercer win. That's the rub. Is my personal bias is impacting my pick against Mercer, but just for the sake of it, I'm still going to stick with UTC. We'll see.
There you go.
We'll see. At this point, if Samford can find an offense, I'm starting to believe in our defense. Yeah. If you can beat the teams you're supposed to, or if you can dominate defensively the teams you're supposed to, you usually play well enough to give your offense a chance to win against the much tougher opponents. So I'm not out on Samford. I put him 5th, 6th last week or 2 weeks ago going into the bye.
Mm-hmm.
Considering the mayhem that is happening before our eyes, we could still very well win the conference.
Yeah, Mercer going, look at stats on the line. They're second in scoring defense in the country. They played 5 games, only allowed 4 touchdowns in those 5 games.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, they're only behind Butler, who's played 5 games, only given up 4 Ts, but they've only given up 6 points per game, while Mercer's given up 7.8. So
That is wild.
pretty wild.
That is wild. All right, maybe Mercer is just the bar none favorite. Just that defense is better than I even could imagine. 7.8 points. Dang.
Yeah.
Dang. All right. Any other thoughts on the SoCon?
No, I think it'll just be interesting to see these games coming up this week. I think Chattanooga and Furman should be pretty interesting. Just Furman get off the mat, or just Chattanooga find a. Well, I say get off the mat. They won last week, but still, do they play up to that level of play we expected them to with a Chattanooga coming into Greenville? So,
I would expect a heavy mock victory right there. Wofford is going to roll. Western's going to roll. Mercer's going to roll. The most competitive game is going to be our game, Samford ETSU.
Yeah, for sure.
Unless VMI just is like, hey, we're going to give Wofford or if Wofford is really as fake as I think they are. God, it would be awesome if the Keydets could get that dub over the Terriers. We'll see. Come on,
Could be one of those weeks last year. Remember, or this week? Remember FBS teams this past week was like, oh, the slate's not good. Then everybody just started losing everywhere. Maybe that happens this week.
Maybe because it looks pretty chalky from where I'm sitting. But all right, let's get to the state of the Bulldogs. Grant, we'll get to volleyball. We're legit. We are legit in volleyball. We got a great test this week. But first, kick it off with women's soccer. Yeah,
women's soccer got the draw this afternoon as we're recording against Furman 1-1, but they had won 3 previously. So they beat Siddle early in the week, then they beat Wofford before that 4-2. So yeah, they struggled through, which was the super difficult non-con, right? That's what Coach Elton does every year to his teams, no matter how good they are, which they've been pretty great over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. He still played that tough non-conference schedule with a lot of big teams. So it's cool seeing them come into their own in this SoCon slate as they're second in the conference right now to Western Carolina. They're in that top 4. So Samford will make the long bus ride to VMI this weekend. So
yeah, that bus ride's terrible. But yeah, Samford sitting comfortably in the top 4. Western atop the conference at 4-0. Whole schedule's in front of us. Impressive start though to the season.
Yeah, and that VMI game's on Friday too. So they got to go Friday, then they got to come back after. Jeez, that's tough. I hate that. Yeah, for real.
We need to petition VMI to play their games away from campus. Maybe a halfway point, in Southern Virginia. Anyway, women's volleyball though still on a heater. We are good, Grant. I think I saw this. Can you confirm our head coach has now 400 wins, Coach Chan?
Yeah, Keeler Chan got his 400th win after the sweep on yesterday.
Nothing to sneeze at.
No, not at all.
And especially with the season this team is having, this might be a special one. Now, with that said, Mercer is 13-3 and undefeated in the SoCon, and we play them this week. So we beat Western 3-0. We swept Western in ETSU. Very impressive to sweep 2 conference opponents in the week. We're riding real high. And we got Mercer and Furman. Mercer with the big matchup. Furman, less known. They've only played 1 conference game due to the hurricane. The other 2 postponed. But Mercer, as I said, 13-3, undefeated in the SoCon. That is the test, Grant. That is the test. Can we win? And if we do, baby, it is our conference to lose.
That's what I like to hear. It doesn't matter. Yeah, that's what I like. Yeah.
Everybody likes a winner. It doesn't matter what the sport is. Everyone likes a winner. Grant, I was on Furman's athletic department homepage today, and they were highlighting their golf team because apparently that's the only program winning at the moment. So everyone likes a winner. Golf is not a real college sport, but we pretend to. We pretend like it is.
Sam's comment does not state the full company's house. Yeah.
Any other closing remarks, Grant, as we kick off ETSU week?
I did get to go check out men's basketball practice the other day, which was pretty fun.
Yes,
so
yes.
I did do that. So we're under a month away from the men's opener on November 4th against Mississippi College, and then the women's opener is November 5th at Tennessee. So So it was fun just to go see some of the guys, see some of the new guys we've got coming in, and then some of the old heads with like Rylan Jones at age 42, who's still on Samford's campus.
So how are we looking?
Good. Yeah, team's looking good. The team should be really good again, so it'll be fun. Should be another fun SoCon slate for sure coming up this winter.
Have you seen the women play or practice?
I have not. Probably should, but I've not gone to their practice yet.
Because our hotshot freshman, right? She's coming in this year.
Yeah, Claire Johnson. Yeah, she's on campus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Basketball season's a month away. Hopefully, we're talking about a little ETSU dub on next Sunday's postgame show. But everybody check out the website, stateofthebulldogs.com. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And
subscribe, like, rate, review, comment, do all the things.
And if you happen to work in TV broadcasting, please send the athletic department an email saying that you will volunteer to show us the way. But with that, the State of the Bulldogs is out. Hope everybody has a nice week.